crown me, you crown me.
Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel, Happily Ever After. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. So, baby, today, what are we talking about?
I think we did promise touching, going in. I don't think we can ever finish this subject, but we are definitely talking about the in-laws. You like doing that sound. Okay, so who goes first?
Um, In-laws. What about in-laws? Okay, I
Okay.
think let's touch upon it.
Okay, so firstly, in-laws. Okay, for us, I think it's so important for us to talk about
The general
our in-law
experience
journey,
and everything.
how
Yeah.
I felt with my in-laws, how you felt with your in-laws. Because obviously that one is completely different.
Yeah, and obviously that we see it a lot with
Yes.
how different in-laws react to one another. Obviously different experiences with
Yes.
married couples that we are acquainted to or associated with.
Yes.
So I think this was one of those topics where we really just wanted to touch on, and because we've had our own experience, we thought, hey, let's share about
Yeah,
it.
let's share it. I also, like I said, I don't think we can ever finish it in like one episode.
Yeah.
Don't think that's going to happen. But I think it's so important. I also don't want to make general assumptions like, hey, girls' families are much better than the guys' family. They're more welcoming and one. But I do think it's so important for us to share our journey, and also to give back as to how a lot of women have felt coming into the guy's family and how they were treated, and how a lot of the guys have come into the girl's family and how they were treated. So I think you should go first. Oh, and also how, and I don't think it's like a solution, but, and I also don't think we have it right just yet. I don't know if we'll ever get it right. However, also some very hard knock. Hey, this is how we learned. We should go about some things because you get misunderstood a lot during this journey. But yeah, it plays a whole lot of factors. I think we saw like 3 pastors about this one subject just for marital counseling. Everything else was like, hey guys, you seem to be fine. Hey, this is fine, this is fine. So what's the issue? In-laws. 3 pastors. So yes, interesting. You go, babe.
I mean, okay, look, I think it's always important to give a background of how our in-law journey started.
Yes.
Obviously, like we said in the previous episode, how we obviously met up, proposed in 4 months and everything. But there's an important thing that we didn't mention previously
Yes.
of my father passing away
Yes.
at the beginning of what we would call officially our relationship.
Yes.
And obviously with that came a lot of involvement with family, because obviously we were going through, and when I say we, I'm going to talk about my father's household.
Yes.
We were going through a transition of obviously learning to live without this guy and obviously establishing our roles within the family.
Yes.
From there. But obviously, like with grief and everything, I've learned that look, life continues, life moves on, and obviously there's a particular path that I chose, which is and I think I had a lot of this where it's like, you're the man now, you gotta take
Yes.
over and everything.
Yes.
Like that. So I think having to deal with that transition, and then also, and it's not like we didn't plan to get married and all of that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So with all of those, dealing with the second transition being our union. So now we had to go from grieving to unionship. So, and I think with all of that, you probably got a very short end of the in-laws with certain interferences that came along the way. With obviously, we know that different people have different agendas when it comes to just grieving and funerals, around like
Yes.
family funerals basically.
Yes.
So a lot gets exposed, you see what's what, who's there for what, and within that transition obviously there comes you, which is like another big thing.
Yeah.
That, so I think also that kind of played a big role.
Yeah.
But just generally looking at it, I think we started fine. If I could demonstrate it, it was here with a few turbulence, and then it just got to some point where it's like, and I think for that, I think it's also best that you elaborate on that one.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that was a very it played a huge role in how, yes, my transitioning with my in-laws. And yes, I completely agree. So with what you're saying, there was a lot of people I think involved. There was a coming and going and on, and also the timing of me coming into your family was just off. It was just, I think it was just off. I think it mostly affected your mother more than anything. Um, but you know what? She really, really tried. And I think she gave of herself in every way possible that she could to welcome me as a daughter. I mean, with the writing of the letter, you know, with all sorts of those things, you know, the uncles coming, the blending with my parents. I mean, I think they did like a lunch at some point and all of that. And so none of that is easy, you know. So with that being said, yes, very, very difficult. So coming into a grieving family as a whole is that you now must just find another level of compassion. Because I think there was one pastor who said during your dad's funeral to say, hey, you can't, no one can come in and say, hey, I know what you're going through. If you've never lost a father, if you've never lost a brother, if you've never lost a husband, you can't particularly say, hey, I know what this person is going through. And even if you have, I think our journeys are completely different. So with that coming in, I think for me, if I'd always imagined myself as a daughter-in-law, as a sister-in-law, would be a building factor. So I think my building factor was very much tested during this time because your family was already going through a whole lot of heartache, and then now I must come in and do you know what I mean? Am I now demanding your time when your time should be shared with your family? Am I now demanding this when this should be? Do you get where I'm coming from? Because there's a lot of things that come with it. I mean, like you said, you were then told you are now the man, you must now step up, and there was a whole lot of that. But with all of that being happening, I also was caught in between a very hard place where I also needed to kind of figure out, okay, am I still dealing
Grieving.
with people that are hurting here, or am I now dealing with a hey, let's pick on the new Magoti kind of a situation? And that was a very thin line, extremely, extremely, extremely thin line. And hey, listen, I think there's a lot of people that will go through it. But just recently, we were at church. Our spiritual parents were preaching about how, as a woman, you must basically be the pain tablet, stress reliever. You can't bring the stress to your husband. So I think that dawned on me a lot because there was a lot that was going on. And I myself, when we come home and it's just the two of us, I don't want us to go, hey, this and this, and you just like, oh my gosh, this person is just bringing me so much stress. Oh my gosh, this person, do you know what I mean? But also in that moment, it's almost as if it's difficult because what can I share with you? What can't I share with you, kind of a thing. So in a very compassionate way, I think we managed to deal with it because I obviously couldn't come to you and just go be like, hey, Lasisi, do you know what I mean? Even if maybe
Look,
inside
look,
that's how you feel.
I think, look, overall, and I think as time went, and I think
Yes.
a lot of time and introspection went into um, having to come to a solution when it comes to in-laws or coming to an
Yes.
understanding. You know what I mean? And I think certain things need to be established over time because there were certain cries that I feel were extremely valid.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And where I'm like, I absolutely agree. You know, but at times we all move at different paces. So it sometimes affects certain people differently.
Yes.
As to go, okay, cool. Well, um, for example, and I'll just touch on this, like I feel where there were certain family members that were taking advantage of the situation as a whole. And obviously now you coming into the picture, there's certain advantages that are being taken.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we said, you a whole lot of colors are revealed when it comes to funerals, and I think that's something where we can touch upon it in the general space as time goes. Where obviously others, you see whether they're coming for financial gain, whether they're coming for, some sort of gain, and there's also those that are just genuinely there. So those are the kind of things where I'm just like, oh, okay. Observing and looking at and going back to say, okay, this was a valid cry.
Yeah.
On my, like, when I look at it and I go, okay, I understand where this was wrong.
Yeah.
And there's certain things where I'm like, overall, what I've learned is to step up and speak up, because there are moments where I feel like there are certain comments that will be made and I just keep quiet about it.
Okay.
Not knowing, like,
Are those the
maybe.
times where I'm like, why don't you stand up for me? Because there's times like that too.
Yeah, some of them, but not
There
all
was
of them.
very heated times during this time. Like I was saying, is that it made it so difficult for us to draw the line between, hey,
What's grieving?
I'm dealing with a
and-
hurting family here, and oh, hey, Umakoti must mop the floors.
Look-
you shut up. Your role is in the kitchen. Do you know what I mean?
think
There was a lot of
certain things come with a level of experience and understanding.
yes.
So obviously I'd never been married before. So and I'd never seen my
Neither
family
have I, by the
through.
way.
I'd never seen them through the situation. So and I feel like, and I'm just gonna talk about it in general, like when it comes to certain guys, because we start seeing it a lot. I mean, we're watching 90 Day Fiance,
Yes.
where you see the mother-in-laws versus the kids. Uh you see it with a lot of shows. I mean, there's channels and shows
In my
about,
own family,
within
in
your
my
own
own
family as well.
there's a
So,
lot.
so what I realize is that there's a lot that weighs on guys. Where as guys, okay, so as guys getting married, and I think a lot of us want unity and
Yes.
growth of the family. You know what I mean? So when you pick a wife, you go, I found the pride. This is someone I feel like, firstly, makes me happy
Yes.
and everything. But ideally, you also want to have someone who's like compliments the family and say,
Yeah.
hey guys, look, and they can all be proud of and say, yeah. So the moment that disagreements or those encounters happen, it kind of splits that vision that we initially have. So that unity is no longer there. So I've seen that a lot of guys crave that unity to have like their new household combine and work well with their old household. But what then I realize is a lot of guys aren't speaking up. And we're not speaking up either against our families or like towards our families to say, hey guys, 1, 2, 3 was wrong, and 1, 2, 3. And I've also been pushed in corners where it's like your wife needs to get with the program of this family. You know what I mean? And now it's like, but we're getting to an understanding of us, because had I gone with certain things where they're like, I must force you to do 1, 2, 3, it then creates problems within our marriage.
course.
You know what I mean? So I had to have a level of wisdom to go, okay, what's worth fighting?
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with it?
Choose your battles.
You know what I mean? And you gotta be like, you gotta think about your battles very wisely when it comes to this, because it's like, okay, mom, you're in the wrong. And the truth of the matter is, you're never gonna throw away your parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all your siblings, kind of a thing. But also, I've got someone, and it's no longer a matter of choosing, because I've already chosen you, as the one pastor said to us. The choosing is done. Like, what's our favorite scripture?
Man shall leave.
Yeah, but what's the Genesis, right? I
can't
think it's
remember.
Genesis. Is it? A man shall leave his mom and dad and cling to his wife. So you need to understand, you started a new chapter. And I always say this, like the Chinese thing, where it's like you take your ring fingers, you do that.
Yeah.
Each finger represents each person. So this will represent your grandparents, your parents, your you, and your children, or your siblings, you, parents. So you take out the ring finger like that, because that's where the rings are, and your parents leave you, siblings leave you, children leave you, but can you split yourself and your partner? You see, so you guys are stuck together, and I think
sounds so like.
No, but that's the truth. I mean, when you
Okay.
get married, it's a thing of look. At the end of the day, I've chosen you, and you're that. And we got to create that next generation. So even with our kids, there's some point we're gonna have to let them go and say, "Go be you." You know what I mean? So I think that thing comes in, and then with each argument and how I pick my battles now has allowed me to go, okay, cool. What's worth fighting for in terms of, is this my battle to fight or is it not my battle to fight?
Got it.
With certain complaints.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So I think that's where I am when it comes to that. But also, most importantly, just speak up to say, look, I hear, like, if family have grievances, I go, okay, cool. I hear you. I'll address it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can come to you and say, okay, and depending if I agree with what family has brought up, I can come to you and say, well, babe, this is what's up.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? And I think it's very important and such a critical role as a man to come in and I'd say guide that relationship, because the truth of the matter is the moment your mom and your wife work well together,
Okay.
things work beautifully.
I want to touch on that scripture. The man shall leave his mom and dad and cling to the wife. The reason why I want to touch on it is because we got so much slack because of that scripture. So now that scripture comes in and people are like, oh, hey, leave your mom, cling to your wife, kind of a situation. But then we had one pastor explain to us deeply as to, but because now people are going to be like, but when does your wife leave and come cling to your side, kind of a situation? And this pastor extensively explained when there's a wedding process, during that wedding process, the handing over of the bride by the parents, when the pastor says, who gives this child over to, kind of a thing, that is the importance of understanding that, okay, this person has been handed over to this particular man. So I think for me, that part I really, really had to clarify, because it's two people. And that's why scripture says the man. You see, it's already written biblically that you, the man. Now physically, then the father hands over to then it's like, okay, then the woman and the man, they've come together. But with that also being said, is that as tough as it was, yes, so important for the guy to step up. But also, I as a wife cannot take advantage. Do you get where I'm coming from? I cannot ride that boat and be like, hey, your mom did this, it's over. Or even if it's not over, or hey, I'm going to use every single excuse to get you away from your family. Or, hey, I'm now telling you to not spend time with your family, or whatever it is. There's a huge transition, which I think the onus lies so badly on you guys, hey? So badly. Because you must now be this middle guy saying, hey, today I think I'm just going to go, hang out. Or...
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's why I said it's always on, like, it's important for men to speak up.
Yes.
In their marriages, where what I've picked up, and even for myself at the beginning, I didn't speak up as much, but now that I've gotten to a point where I'm like, no, I'm gonna speak up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's also my happiness of what I'm looking at. Because I mean, we both understand that marriage is a compromise. You know what I mean? So if I'm not happy about a certain area, what do you think? In most cases, we see that others would step out, or it just comes a lot of conflicts and issues that come along. So it just makes things a lot worse. So I think just the speaking up part. But another thing I wanted to touch on is also, like, obviously there's a lot that plays a role in terms of culture, Christianity.
We might need a whole new episode.
Yeah, I know that. So, but all those things play a role,
Yes.
and I think it's very important to understand the foundations that you guys lie on.
Of course.
Because then that becomes your guide,
of course,
as to how to deal with whatever encounters that come along with it.
I agree. I
You know
agree.
what I mean? So,
lot to talk about on that topic. Lots to talk about.
I think we'll need a part 2 for that, like, in all honesty.
Yes, but other than that, I think in the difficulties, it's so important for us as wives to support our husbands, in the best way possible. Yes, and not be the pulling factor. You're now tearing these people apart. Maybe remove yourself. I don't know. For me, I felt maybe I must just remove myself as an individual, not come as if I'm tearing these people apart. But with that being said, we might do a part 2 of this because I think
No, definitely
that was
will.
that
I
was
think we
quite
definitely
deep
will.
and whatnot. But yes, guys, thank you for tuning in this week to Happily Ever After. We hope that you are enjoying these episodes. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, share,
I still need those 4.
and everything else. Thank you so much.
I am who you crown me.